Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, last night, where we left off, more or less, was that Sita had been kidnapped by Ravan. Ravan, whose name means he who makes other people cry. Interesting name to have. So, of course, we did discuss that whole subject of Ravana kidnapping Mother Sita from different perspectives, and perhaps perspectives we haven't really heard of before or really considered before. Some considerations that we hadn't really thought of perhaps before. So, but anyway, in terms of the Leela, in terms of the pastime, even though there's the understanding which we gave last night of who is Mother Sita. Well, who is Mother Sita? She is the goddess of fortune. She is one of the main presiding deities of the spiritual energy of the Lord. And that spiritual energy is far superior to this material energy. This material energy is very dull and really, even though we call it material energy, it really sort of dissipates energy, reduces energy, and really deteriorates everything. For that matter, in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna explains that we are all eternal spiritual persons. But here within this world we have these material bodies which are like vehicles, and we are, you could say, like the drivers of the vehicles. And in our pure spiritual condition, as we really are, when we are not under the jurisdiction of matter, the material energy, the material world, then we as eternal spiritual beings, we actually have tremendous power. Even Prabhupada, our spiritual master, made the point, the soul has the potency of 1,000,000 suns. That's a lot. That's really a lot. And more than that, actually, because the sun is also material. So the soul, we as eternal spiritual beings, in our real natural condition, as spiritual living beings, in a spiritual environment, we have tremendous potency. But here within this material world, we have these material bodies. And we have material consciousness, material state of mind. And we're really quite overwhelmed by these things. And we really accept these things as reality. as our reality. And as a result, we become, because we accept it like that, we become conditioned. You know, in one sense, this term conditioned, we say conditioned soul. Someone who is a spirit soul, but they're just within the material world and under the control of the material nature. So sometimes when we try to explain what that means, what the condition of the conditioned soul is, then sometimes we give the example that what it really implies is that we have accepted the conditions of this world, and therefore we've become conditioned by the conditions. That's fairly straightforward. So anyway, how could Ravana, this was one of the points we discussed last time, how could Ravana, who is a conditioned soul, quite a, you could say, outstanding conditioned soul, not your average run-of-the-mill Botswana, what do you call them, Botswanian, isn't it? I don't know. But, you know, one of us. Ravana was not like that. Ravana was really incredibly powerful. Actually, the factors, the histories tell us that in his previous life, Ravana was even more powerful. I mean, just quite incredibly, and bigger too, physically bigger. When Ravana was trying to raise an army and gather supporters and gather an army, when he knew that Lord Rama was going to attack. So Ravana went to various people and appealed to them, please give me money or something, or give me some men so I can just strengthen my position. So he went to see one of his brothers, whose name was Mahiravan. And he asked Mahiravan, can you help me? Can you help me? This battle is going to take place shortly. Can you help me? Give this, give something, do something, give something. And Mahiravan said, I can help you. I can really help you. You know how I can help you? I'll give you some advice. Some good advice. You know what that is? Don't fight Ram. Don't try. Just give Sita back and just call it a day and see what comes. And Ravan got very upset. You're my brother. You have to help me. You can't say things like that to me. You have to support me. Don't speak like this. And Mahiravan said, all right. That would have really helped you, actually. But if you're not ready for that sort of help, then okay, you want a donation? I'll give you a donation. Come with me. And they went walking out a little ways. And then they came to a big golden thing. A very big golden thing, which was actually, it looked like a mountain. And Mahiravan said to Ravan, come with me. Let me take you around it, you can inspect it. So they walked around this big golden thing. And as they walked around, Ravan, well, when they had come around, Ravan said to Mahi Ravan, and this is amazing. First of all, I saw it, I thought it was a mountain. But now we've walked all the way around it, I've looked at it more carefully. It seems to be some manufactured thing. Yeah, like someone made it. Even though it's massive, it's really big. Like a mountain, it really is big. But it's not just like a mountain, it looks like someone somehow or other constructed it. And Mahiravan said, yes, you are getting the idea. Mahiravan said, in your last lifetime, this was one of your earrings. But when this same Ram killed you in your previous lifetime, he was, after all, Hiranyakashipu. I mean, Lord Rama, Ravan was Hiranyakashipu, and Lord Rama was Lord Singhadev. So when the Lord killed you in your previous lifetime, then this one earring fell off, just got knocked off in the middle of the battle. It landed here, and we just left it here. So it's my donation to you. It's yours, actually. But just understand, he told Ravan, just understand, you have become reduced like this in stature, in strength, in capability. It was your earring, now it looks like a mountain to you. You've become so small compared to how you were in your previous life. But this Ram, he is no less powerful than he was. So look, I leave it up to you. Either you take my advice, or you take your earring. It's in your hands. So, you know, Ravan being, you could say, the eternal optimist, not exactly eternal, but a long-term optimist, he decided to take the earring and fight. But even Ravan thought, you know, because a number of people told him this same thing, that actually this Ram, he is, most of them said, he's Vishnu, he's God, he's a form of God. Don't fight with him, don't try, don't try. He'll destroy you completely, and you'll just lose everything. So, a number of people said things like this to Ravan, and it got on Ravan's nerves a bit after a while. It sort of got to him a bit. And Ravan, as I recall, the last person who said it to him was Vibhishan, who was also one of his brothers, who happened to be a devotee of the Lord and not a demon like Ravan and basically all his other relatives. So when Vibhishan said, you know, look, he is Vishnu, he is God. Don't try. Just stop. Give him Sita back. Try and make peace. And Ravan said, okay, all right, look. If he is God, he'll kill me, what can I do? I'll be liberated through being killed by God. If he's an ordinary person, as I really think he is, I'll kill him. So either way, I win. So let me just carry on. And he did. And Lord Rama assembled his army there. Well, actually, as I'm sure you know, when Sita was kidnapped, as I said, we talked about that from different perspectives last night. But at least Lord Ram, he took it that Sita had been kidnapped. We may read a little bit. I've printed out a few verses where Lord Ram expresses himself, his feelings in separation from Sita immediately after she was apparently kidnapped. But right at that time, that was when they met Hanuman. Up till then, they had not met Hanuman. It was only after Sita had been kidnapped they encountered Hanuman, the monkey. So Hanuman, of course, it's a long story, but basically Hanuman offered to help Lord Rama to find Sita. I've got my whole army here of monkeys. We know the jungle, we know the whole area. We'll find Sita. Lord Ram was too overcome with emotion to speak. So Hanuman spoke with Lakshman, Lord Ram's brother. And he asked Lakshman, he said, okay, we're going to help you. We will locate Sita. But we haven't seen Sita before. So tell us what she looks like. We're ready. We're ready. Tell us what she looks like. Lakshman said, I don't know what she looks like. And Hanuman said, wait a minute. I am talking about your sister-in-law. You have all been here together for the last so many years, 24 hours a day, basically. I'm talking about her. Maybe you think I'm talking about someone else. I'm talking about Sita. Tell me what she looks like. We want to help. We'll find her. And Lakshman said, no. I don't know what she looks like. I can't tell you. And Hanuman got a little slightly agitated. I'm trying to help you. Please stop this. Just tell me what she looks like. And Lord Lakshman said, really? I don't actually know what she looks like, because I have never looked above her feet. And then Lakshman gave a very detailed and very beautiful description of the lotus feet of Mother Sita to Hanuman. And then when Hanuman jumped over to Lanka looking for Sita, and then he came to that Ashok grove, and there was Sita in fact, but he wasn't sure because he'd never seen her before. So he showed her the ring of Lord Rama, and she recognized that, and Hanuman felt, aha, must be Sita. But still, he wasn't absolutely sure. So then he looked at her feet, and he saw, because on Sita's feet there are markings, particularly on the soles of her feet. There are markings, unlike our feet, which just have, you know, sort of squiggles and whatever you'd say. Our footprints. But she has very amazing markings on her lotus feet. And Hanuman looked and he saw. And then he understood, this is Sita. Because anyone could bluff us and just sort of guess, aha, ring. He's showing me a ring. What could this be about? Maybe I should say it must be a ring. Someone could guess something like that and bluff. But you can't bluff about the marks on the bottom of your feet. That you can't do. So then Hanuman understood, aha, it is Sita. And then of course Hanuman decided to create some mischief. So he smashed the Ashok Grove. And different warriors came to catch him. The message went back to Ravan. The Ashok Grove is destroyed. And Ravan said, who did it? Was it an army of invaders who somehow or other got in undetected? And the people said, no, it's a monkey. So various people went down to try and arrest Hanuman. No one could arrest Hanuman. They all got either killed or chased away. And finally, Ravan sent one of his big generals, big, tough general, big professional soldier. So he confronted Hanuman. What do you think you're doing? Who do you think you are? And Hanuman said, I am Hanuman. I am the servant of Ram, in his characteristic way. And that general, he was just basically a first-class nonsense demon. And of course he'd heard about Ram and he didn't like Ram. And so he said, Ram! You are a servant of that Ram. Oh no! And he started saying some bad things about Ram to Hanuman. That is not a good idea. If you ever meet Hanuman, don't do that. You'll end up in trouble. So he did. He's criticizing Lord Rama and laughing, being sarcastic. And Hanuman just got too angry. And he was just about to just smash him one. When suddenly he felt a great call of nature, if you know what I mean. So this man, he was, you could say, literally a big mouth. He was talking a lot and he had a big mouth. And he was sort of enunciating his words with his mouth. And Hanuman, you know what Hanuman did? He urinated in the man's mouth. And there's this big general, a mouth full of monkey urine. You know, he'd been attacked with every kind of weapon and battled with so many warriors, but no one ever did this to him. And he just ran. He didn't know what to do. And then, of course, Hanuman jumped back to the other side and met Lord Rama. Somehow, anyway, they talked about it. Did you find Sita? Yes, I found Sita. And how is she? And so on. And what's the situation? And anyway, many things happened, actually. Many things happened, not just that, but many things happened. And so Hanuman's explaining all the different things that happened. And he said, yes, and then this big general came and he was blaspheming you, so I taught him a good lesson. I urinated in his mouth. And Ram said, what? How could you do that? You can't do things like that. He's a warrior. You have to fight with him. You can't do things like that. And Hanuman said, well, I'm a monkey. We do things like that sometimes. So anyway, to cut an extremely long story extremely short, because we haven't got a few days to go through it all. But then they set out for Lanka. As they were about to set out, Vibhishan came from Lanka, flying in an aircraft, like sort of mystical aircraft from Lanka. And Angada, another one of the monkeys, saw him in this aircraft approaching. And he said, look, it's Vibhishan. He's one of Ravan's brothers. He's a demon. Let's kill him. And Lord Rama said, no, wait. Just cool down. There's only one of him, so many of us. What can he do? Let's see. He's coming to us on his own. Let's see what his idea is. But Angada, he was, not very happy about that. So then Vibhishan landed, and Angada said to Lord Rama, let me kill him with my club. Just one good shot, whack. And good night, Vibhishan. Let me do that. He's a demon. And Lord Rama told him, listen, Angada, calm down. Just calm down. Let us see what he wants. And then Vibhishan got out of his aircraft and approached Lord Rama and threw himself at the lotus feet of Lord Rama and spoke one very nice verse, which unfortunately it's on my computer. I don't have it right here with me. But basically what the verse is, he says, my Lord, from this day on, I am yours. I am yours. And Angada told Lord Rama, don't listen to him. He's a demon. They say anything as they like. Don't listen to him. Just let me kill him. And he told Lord Rama, my motto is, the only good demon is a dead demon. And then Lord Rama got a little angry with Angada and told him, even if Ravana himself came and did the same thing and said the same thing to me, I would immediately accept it. I would immediately accept it. And then he spoke another verse, which is very, very nice verse, that anyone who approaches me like this and speaks like this, that my Lord, from this day on, I am yours. I will never forget that person. And I will always protect that person. Anyway, so then they built the bridge and they crossed to Lanka. And let us read a few verses from the description there. Very abbreviated description of the battle. After constructing a bridge over the ocean by throwing into the water the peaks of mountains, whose trees and other vegetation had been shaken by the hands of great monkeys. Lord Ramachandra went to Lanka to release Sita Devi from the clutches of Ravana, with the direction and help of Vibhishan, Ravana's brother. The Lord, along with the monkey soldiers headed by Sugriva, Nila and Hanuman, entered Ravana's kingdom, Lanka, which had previously been burnt by Hanuman. That was another thing, I'm sure you're well aware of that. Hanuman, he set fire to Lanka before he returned. After entering Lanka, the monkey soldiers, led by chiefs like Hanuman, occupied all the sporting houses, granaries, treasuries, palace doorways, city gates, assembly houses, palace frontages, and even the resting houses of the pigeons. They really took over. When the city's crossroads, platforms, flags, and golden water pots on its domes were all destroyed, the entire city of Lanka appeared like a river, disturbed by a herd of elephants. When Ravana, the master of the Rakshasas, saw the disturbances created by the monkey soldiers, he called for Nikumba, Kumbha, Dumraksha, Duramukha, Surantaka, Narantaka, and other Rakshasas, and also his son Indrajit. Thereafter he called for Prahasta, Atikaya, Vikampana, and finally Kumbhakarna. Then he induced all his followers to fight against the enemies. So these are all big demons. These are just like, they're like monsters. They are just heavy, heavy people, to put it extremely mildly. And the worst was Kumbhakarna. He was a giant, like really a giant. And he had a benediction, which is another long story. He had a benediction. He could sleep as long as he liked. Many people would like a benediction, particularly on Sunday morning. But he really had such a benediction. And so he was just basically sleeping. That was his program. Happy days are here again. And the only way to wake him up, because he was a giant, massive being, was they would have to send in like a whole musical band, beating drums and just smashing cymbals and making this incredible racket. And then he'd wake up. And you know what it's like when you wake up. Often you're not in such a wonderful mood. It takes a while to sort of adjust to the manifest external reality. So he'd been sleeping a long time. So whenever he was woken up, he was always in this terrible mood. And he would just grab whoever was nearest to him and eat them. Hare Krishna. Because he was Rakshasa. And Rakshasa means cannibal. Yeah. Human eater, man eater. So anyway, they woke him up, he came out, but then he was killed too. And then there was only Ravana left on his side. And Lord Rama approached Ravana and told him, just give me Sita back. That's all. That's all. You can stay the king here. And he told him, you just give me Sita back. I will bring all your people, because they're all dead. I'll bring them all back to life. All of them. And I'll make them forget that we were ever enemies. I'll make them think that we've always been friends, and we will be friends. And you rule. You rule. Just give me Sita back, that's all. And Ravan said, no. Such is life. And he paid with his life. So that's what we're going to be reading about. Lord Ramachandra, surrounded by Lakshman and monkey soldiers like Hanuman and Angada, attacked the soldiers of the Rakshasas, who were fully equipped with various invincible weapons. Angada and the other commanders of the soldiers of Ramachandra faced the elephants, infantry, horses and chariots of the enemy and hurled against them big trees, mountain peaks, clubs and arrows. Thus, the soldiers of Lord Ramachandra killed Ravana's soldiers, who had lost all good fortune because Ravana had been condemned by the anger of Mother Sita. The same point is made just a few verses on when Ravana is dead. Anyway, let us just read on to that point. Thereafter, when Ravana, the king of the Rakshasas, observed that his soldiers had been lost, he was extremely angry. Thus he mounted his airplane, which was decorated with flowers, and proceeded toward Lord Ramachandra, who sat on the effulgent chariot brought by Matali, the chariot driver of Indra. Then Ravana struck Lord Ramachandra with sharp arrows. Lord Ramachandra said to Ravana, you are the most abominable of the man-eaters. Indeed, you are like their stool. You resemble a dog, for as a dog steals eatables from the kitchen in the absence of the householder, in my absence you kidnap my wife, Sita Devi. Therefore, as Yamaraj punishes sinful men, I shall also punish you. You are most abominable, sinful and shameless. Today, therefore, I, whose attempt never fails, shall punish you. After thus rebuking Ravana, Lord Ramachandra fixed an arrow to his bow, aimed at Ravana, and released the arrow, which pierced Ravana's heart like a thunderbolt. Upon seeing this, Ravana's followers raised a tumultuous sound, crying, alas, alas, what has happened? What has happened? As Ravana, vomiting blood from his 10 mouths, fell from his airplane, just as a pious man falls to earth from the heavenly planets when the results of his pious activities are exhausted. So thereafter all the women whose husbands had fallen in the battle, headed by Mandodari, the wife of Ravana, came out of Lanka, continuously crying. They approached the dead bodies of Ravana and the other Rakshasas. So Mandodari says, she says a number of things, but this is one thing she says, addressing the dead body of her husband, Ravana. You came under the influence of lusty desires, and therefore you could not understand the influence of Mother Sita. Now, because of her curse, you have been reduced to this state, having been killed by Lord Rama. So I just want to mention just a few words about that point, which was also mentioned a little while before, that Ravana, Shri Sitaram Lakshmana Hanuman Ki. If you don't mind, we'll just carry on a little. Is that okay? Yeah. There was mention of how all the soldiers of Ravana died because of the anger of Mother Sita, not exactly towards them, but towards Ravana. And now here, Ravana's wife is telling him, you have been reduced to this state because of the curse of Sita. This is a very important point, that women, generally, not always, but generally, women are smaller than men. Am I right? Or should I not have said that? Was that not politically correct these days? But I think it's generally like that. So, how can they become powerful enough to be the causes of death of all these big soldiers, these big warriors, who it was just their life. Their lives were just to kill people, and they were expert. But she was responsible for their deaths just because of her anger. Not that she got, dropped an atomic bomb on them or something along those lines, or, as we mentioned last night, not that she went to the gym and worked out and became a big tough lady. What do you think, ladies? And this just went and just smashed them. No. She remained a refined and cultured woman, an extremely refined and extremely cultured lady. But she was responsible for their deaths because of her character as a lady. And from that she got her strength, due to, for example, her chastity. And we'll read later, or maybe we'll read on Tuesday night, perhaps we might continue then, how faithful she was to Lord Rama, and how Lord Rama was worthy of being faithful to. Your average run-of-the-mill husband these days. What can you say? Ladies, you would know. But they're not on the level of Ram as husbands. And the ladies, anyway, you're all very nice ladies, but Sita was special, shall we say. So her power, tremendous power, came from these qualities of hers. And, and she was able to influence her husband, Ram, to do as she wanted because of her qualities and her affection for him. And not that she just used to sort of browbeat him into doing what she wanted. You know, nagging. I want a new sari, 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 I want a new sari. All right! Just give me a break. Anyway, please don't mind, ladies. You're great souls. So, but we have heard these things happen sometimes. At least it is a caricature in the minds of some men that their wives sort of work them over in that type of way to get their own ways. But Sita wasn't like that at all. Yeah. Because of her faithfulness and dedication and her genuine affection for Lord Rama. He felt that and he reciprocated. He did like that, and she became powerful. So powerful. Extremely powerful in that way. You know, Prabhupada told the story of when he was young, a young married man. He was traveling on business. And he was on a train. In the compartment, there were two young women. And this is, you know, this is way back. Not 100 years, but what, 80 or something years ago. Something like that. And so there were these two young women, you know, sort of whatever, early 20s, perhaps, something like that. And one was, by 1920s standards, a really modern young girl. You know, a bit of a hip groover or something. And she was all done up, you know, very fancy and overdone up. And she thought she was pretty cool, actually. And then there was this other girl who was very traditional girl. She had a sari on. And don't take this the wrong way, any of you ladies. She had the sari, the end of a sari over her head. And there she was. So this modern young lady was kind of making fun of, shall we call her, the more traditional young lady. And then at one point, you know, she's being a little sarcastic and like that. At one point, the modern young lady grabbed the end of the sari from over the head and pulled it off the head of the traditional young lady and laughed. And the traditional young lady pulled it back over her head. It didn't say anything, just sat there. And then the modern young lady said a few more things, pulled the sari off again and laughed. And the traditional young lady just pulled it back over her head, just sat there. Then a third time, the modern young lady pulled the sari off the traditional girl's head and laughed. And the traditional girl just turned around and just gave her one good whack. As we said last night, as they say in Durban, what happened? Just whacked this girl who really didn't expect it, and her head sort of almost spun around 360 degrees. And she just got bewildered and got up and left the compartment. And Srila Prabhupada said he congratulated the traditional young lady. So, yes. Let's just carry on a little. So now Sita was rescued. They returned to Ayodhya and became established there, and Ram became the king, and so on like that. So let us just read a few more verses. Being pleased by the full surrender and submission of Lord Bharat, Lord Ramachandra then accepted the throne of the state. He cared for the citizens exactly like a father. And the citizens, being fully engaged in their occupational duties of Varna and Ashram, accepted him as their father. When Lord Ramachandra became king during Treta Yuga, but because of his good government, the age was like Satya Yuga. Everyone was religious and completely happy. When Lord Ramachandra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was the king of this world, all bodily and mental suffering, disease, old age, bereavement, lamentation, distress, fear and fatigue were completely absent. There was even no death for those who did not want it. So it's just, people would say, of course people would say, I mean, your average man in the street would say, what? Unbelievable. Fairy tale. But it's not. It's true. And Srila Prabhupada comments here. Let's read Prabhupada's short purport. All these facilities existed because of Lord Ramachandra's presence as the king of the entire world. A similar situation could be introduced immediately, even in this age called Kali, the worst of all ages. It is said, Kali Kale, Nama Rupe, Krishna Avatar. Krishna descends in this Kali Yuga in the form of his holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. If we chant offenselessly, Ram and Krishna are still present in this age. The kingdom of Ram was immensely popular and beneficial, and the spreading of this Hare Krishna movement can immediately introduce a similar situation even in this Kali Yuga. Now, of course, that might sound like, sure, something pretty fantastic. And even we might have difficulty digesting that, even as devotees. But this is Shastra, this is scripture stating, this is Srimad Bhagavatam. And at least we can ourselves, as individuals, or as families, if the whole family is really Krishna conscious, but at least ourselves as individuals, we can experience ourselves that through Krishna consciousness, Ram consciousness, how our lives have changed, how we have changed, and how our whole situation, just everything, has become so much more auspicious than before. So, at least to that degree, we can recognize this in our own lives and the lives of our family, if they're also devotees, and others who we know who are devotees. The transforming effect of Krishna consciousness, Ram consciousness, even in this age of Kali, is very degraded. It's extremely degraded, actually. Just talking about cannibals. You don't know. Some years ago, it was actually 84. There was a group of us. We went to what was then Southwest Africa, now Namibia, and we were doing some fundraising up there. Windhoek and Sumeb, and I forget the names of the places, but various places up there. Etosha. So there we were. And we noticed that occasionally we'd see people around, local people around, and they had their teeth, some of their teeth filed to points. Like, we have canine teeth, which are sort of pointed, sort of. But these were now actually like real points. And, we're trying to figure out what's the story here. So we asked some person, and he said, well, he didn't want to say. He said, well, I think it's some sort of fashion thing. And that's all he would say. And we could see he was kind of perplexed a little. So then we would meet people every day, and we asked someone else. And he said, as far as I know, it means they're cannibals. Because human flesh is apparently, tougher. We don't want to get too much into these things. But sure, that was really a bit of something to hear. Then a little later, some years later, I was in Holland. I was in, I think, Rotterdam or Den Haag, somewhere up there. And a bus went past. And on the side of the bus was, like the whole side of the bus, was a big advertisement for some charitable organization like Save the Children. And it had pictures of all these children of different nationalities and so on. And there was this one little, and they all, nice smiling little children, happy. And there was this one little happy child smiling, and his teeth were filed to points. And I thought, gosh, is this Save the Cannibal Fund or something like that? So, but this is Kali Yuga. This is Kali Yuga. And these things happen. These things are happening. There was in my day, when I was young, there was a really famous, like, underground artist, but it eventually became world famous. His name was Andy Warhol. He was very, very famous in the hippie era. So, and he was very proud, and he just publicly announced how he ate human flesh once. Yeah. So, anyway, my basic point is, it's Kali Yuga, and it's not nice what goes on. What goes on, at least in some places, like during wars, what goes on during wars. Oh, they don't tell you what actually goes on, but it's just shocking, too shocking for human beings. So it's Kali Yuga. It's very degraded and getting worse. But through Krishna consciousness, Ram consciousness, if we take it seriously and really try and apply it in our lives practically, then it has such an amazing transformational effect. Really, really amazing. and just turns a person around completely. So this is a message we can take from this Ram Navami celebration, the anniversary of the appearance of Lord Rama. Many people, particularly in India, of course, Lord Rama is so extremely well known, and people, these histories about how things were when Ram was ruling, they're also well known, and they're described in many literatures. and from time to time, you get some people, they form a political party, and they promise people, Ram Rajya. We, vote for us, we will make it like when Ram was ruling. And I suppose some people are sort of innocent, means foolish enough to believe that. But people who are aware of these things, they hanker for these things. They would like it. In South Africa, when Nelson Mandela got out of jail, whenever that was, 90-something, actually came and visited our temple. And then he went off to some other program with it was put together by the main Hindu body, Hindu Mahasabha. And the leader, the then leader of that body, prominent Gujarati man, got up and said, yes, here's Nelson Mandela, and he's so great and so wonderful. He's just like Lord Rama. Anyway, I mean, he's better than some, I guess, but he's definitely not on the level of Lord Rama. But if we want transformation on a personal level, on a sort of family level, on a suburban level or community level, national, international, like this, then it's not just a matter of sort of wishing, oh, I wish Ram would come. If Ram would come, it would be okay. But Kali Kale, Nama Rupe, Krishna Avatar, or you could say Ram Avatar, Kali Kale, in the Kali time, in the Kali Yuga, Nama Rupe, in the form of the name, the Lord descends, and the Lord is present. Yeah, in the form of his names. So actually, he is no less present today in the form of his names than he was in these times exact times we were reading of. He can be in your life, in our lives, as present, no less, completely than he was in those days, if we take shelter of him in the form of his names. And then, we're pretty conditioned ourselves through living in material life for however many years in this lifetime, but then previous lifetimes also. There's a cumulative effect, it builds up. But still, if we take shelter of the Lord in the form of his names, first and foremost, and in the form of the deity, in the form of his words, his instructions, his service, his devotees, and for those of you who've been fasting today, his prasadam. How nice. We welcome him in the form of his prasadam. So we'll experience that. Yeah. gradually more and more and more and more and more, until finally one meets the Lord face to face in the form of his names. Yeah. So this is a message we can take from this in practical terms, not just some nice, interesting pastimes and dramatic stories and so on. But in practical terms, we can apply in our lives. And practical in the sense that if we do apply them, then we will actually get some tangible experience. And not just you believe in it and it remains just something sort of ethereal and never really goes beyond something you believe in. But something tangible, down to earth, and real. As real as anything else you experience. So, this is there. Let us take shelter of Lord Rama in the form of his holy names. And these other forms we mentioned, in the form of his deity, in the form of his instructions, like Krishna's instructions in Bhagavad Gita, in the form of his service, in the form of the association of his devotees, and in the form of his prasadam. Yes, very good. And gradually, step by step, realization will come. Practical, tangible experience will come. Hare Krishna. Hare Rama.
Hare Rama.
Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman Ki
Jai.
Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman Ki
Jai.
Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman Ki
Jai.
Shri Ram Navami Mahotsava Ki
Jai.
Gaur Premanande.